looks like we are live. Welcome to Coy Sports Corner. It is Coy back here with my co-host, the one and only former University of Nebraska offensive lineman. It is Big Dog Todd Peterson. Todd, welcome to the show. How you doing, man?
Oh man, I can't complain. Coy, how you doing?
You know what I mean? I feel good.
Good.
Feel a
Yeah,
little
man, you should
rejuvenated.
feel good. You got a nice, good haircut. You're clean. Yes, man, you should feel good.
I appreciate it, man. I never been one to take a compliment, but once I got with my wife, she like, man, you need to learn how to take and accept the compliment. So
Yeah,
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 so I appreciate that, man. Yeah, I'm sleeping a little bit better, that's for sure. All that
yeah.
hair kind of gone and man.
I know it makes you hot.
Whew, when you work outside like I do, and it's
Mm-hmm.
Florida,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
But it was an easy day. A lot of people were in, so not a lot of
Mhm.
people. The areas I was in, nothing was really going on, so it was kind of a easy peasy
Good,
day.
good.
No money I like to make other than easy money, legal money,
Yes,
legal money. I want to make that very clear. Legal money, but easy money.
I
I
agree
love
with you 100%.
it. Ain't no other
100%.
way I would love. Ain't no other way I would have it, man. If I
Yeah,
could, I'm just saying. But
I agree with
don't
you
mind working
100%.
hard. I don't mind working hard any day of the weekend. Seeing mom growing up, seeing dad, working hard. So I don't shy away from hard work. But if I can make some easy money and have a little energy to play with my kids and watch them having fun, then it's all worth it.
That's the American way, Coy.
Yes, sir. All right.
That's the American way.
Did you want to say anything before we started? Just anything you want to get out? While we have
Nope,
about 30
nope.
more seconds for you. No?
I'm good,
Okay.
man. Let's jump into it. Let's go ahead and get this
All right,
action
man.
going.
All right. Well, we are going to jump into it, TP. There's a football game going on tonight. It is
Mm-hmm.
the Dallas Cowboys at the New York Football Giants.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Giants are playing. They're keeping at least it competitive early.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones has had some good throws. Uh, but let's get down to the nitty gritty. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the results of this game could have some serious implications on some people's jobs and the fate I feel like of the Dallas Cowboys. So I want to start right here. If the Dallas Cowboys lose this game that we're watching right now,
Mm-hmm.
and it will still be their third loss in a row,
Uh-huh.
are they out of the playoffs?
No, because it's a 17 game season. It's a 17 game season. So I think Dallas is going to turn it around. I don't think Dallas is in any kind of turmoil. Even if they lose this game. Now the season is still early and it's a 17 game season. After September, that's when teams really find themselves and they get hot or cold. You're either going to see them as a pretender or a contender. We still got a couple more weeks in September. Remember, this is just the first week, the first month of the NFL season. It's a long season. We got a 17 game season. I think Dallas will turn it around.
Okay, well, I'm gonna go out on a limb and say they don't. I'm gonna push back. I'm gonna say they don't make the playoffs. I'll say because of this. If the Giants and the excuse me, sorry people out there. If the Giants and the Commanders were not playing tough this year early in the season,
Hmm.
I would be like, they can lose this third in a row. They got 4 division games. They'll pick them up in the division. That'll help their record or whatnot. But then
Hmm.
I seen Daniel Jones going to Cleveland and do what he did against the Cleveland Browns defense.
Yeah.
Then I see the Philadelphia Eagles come back because they couldn't really move the ball. They somehow or another found a way to win at the end of the game against New Orleans this past weekend. And Dallas the last 2 weeks been getting blowed out throughout the whole games of the last 2 games.
Yeah.
Does not look good. So maybe I'm reading too much. Maybe it's just I'm jumping the gun too early. I'll admit it. Maybe I am,
Hmm.
but maybe I'm not.
I think you're jumping the gun too much. The Commanders beat the 0-2 at the time Bengals.
Mhm.
The Giants beat the Cleveland Browns, who are now 1-3, 1-2. So, are you jumping the gun a little bit? I do think the Commanders are serious. I do think the Commanders are serious. I do think the Giants are going to have a much better season than they had last year. But in the top of that division, you still got Dallas and Philly. When it comes down to what's on paper, and somebody just has to coach that talent, Dallas and Philly are leading the pack in the NFC East.
Um, Well, what about Danny? What about Daniel Jones? You know, I make jokes about Danny Dumbo and my friend Oscar, who's a lifelong New York Giants football fan. You
Mhm.
know, he can't stand how they got rid of Saquon and kept Daniel Jones, and I was in that camp as well. But then when
Mhm.
I seen Daniel Jones healthy, then when I seen Daniel Jones with an actual number one, as you stated in the pre-show when we were discussing a little bit, you said he finally got what he told him what he needed was a number one receiver, and I couldn't agree more because he looks okay throwing that ball. He looks comfortable. He's getting a few seconds to throw the ball out.
Yeah.
I
Well,
can't say that the guy's that bad of a quarterback. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think they've upgraded the offensive line to protect him a little bit more. And just like you said, I said in the pregame show, he has a number one receiver. And he just needed time. You give the time that he had last year compared to this year, you got 2 seconds versus 5 seconds. Even if he has to roll out a little bit. 3 seconds makes a lot of difference in this game of football.
Yes.
And now I think he can really roll out. He can really show his athleticism and beat Danny Dimes. And that kid, number one, that he has, that kid is for real.
Neighbors. Neighbors.
Neighbors,
Number one.
Malik
He's number
Neighbors.
one for the Giants, guys. Neighbors.
Yes,
Go ahead, God. Sorry about
Malik
that.
Malik Neighbors. That kid is for real.
Mm-hmm.
That kid is for real. So I expect them to have a lot better season than they had last year, as I do the Commanders. The Commanders got somebody real back there. Jaden Daniels is for real.
Yes.
That kid ain't going nowhere. Jaden Daniels is for real. And it's just showing you how these college quarterbacks are coming into the league ready to play right now. That kid he was ready 2 years ago when you look at it.
Mm.
And he just came into the league this year. That kid is for real. But don't get me wrong, like I said, the Giants beat the Cleveland Browns. And the Commanders beat the 0-2 at the time. Now 0-3 Cincinnati Bengals.
Yeah. Uh, I don't know.
Time will tell.
It always does. It always does. Also, a last question before we get move on to our next topic. If they lose their third in a row, and they somehow or another seem to be going the opposite direction of progress,
Hmm.
does Mike McCarthy finish the season? He's not under any. He doesn't have an extension. You know.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I definitely think he finishes the season because right now, all of this weighs on Jerry Jones, not Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy is only coaching what he's dealt with. He's having to turn chicken salad into chicken shit. You got two players who had holdouts, who didn't work together at all during the preseason, at all during camp. And then you finally pay CeeDee Lamb a week going into week one. You don't have a running back. You don't have a premier running back. That's Jerry Jones, the general manager.
Yeah.
That's not Mike McCarthy. So no, you can't blame it all on him. You can't fire him mid-season. Look what you're giving him to work with.
Um. I'll I'll have to agree with you there. I'll just say
Mhm.
this, and we'll move on to the next topic. But those holdouts really hurt more than what people think. And I
Yes.
think when you have a coach that really doesn't have nothing to lose because he doesn't even have an extension, so he doesn't even look like the team is really committing to him.
Yep.
Why should he, if it starts to go awry? Why should he really care as much as anyone thinks he should? Why not? If
Yeah.
you're gonna fire me because if it's burning down, let it burn down and let me start afresh somewhere else. So
Yeah.
that's just my thoughts. All right. Moving over to we got some notable games, guys, that we wanted to discuss. Yeah, 4 games here on the schedule that really piqued our interest, so to speak. And let's just start out with numero uno. Number 4, Alabama, Roll Tide versus those Bulldogs of Georgia. Number 2, UGA. This game is a big game, probably the biggest game, probably going to have the biggest impact on the college football playoffs, in my opinion, uh, because it's going to knock one of them out of that top 4, in my opinion. It's going to knock one of them. At least if Alabama definitely loses, in my opinion, it's definitely going to knock Alabama out of the top 4. I don't think they're going to
Yeah,
stay at 4 if they lose to Georgia.
yeah, I
Okay,
agree.
so I think it's significant. But how significant do you think it is this game, this early in the season, and for what it's going to mean later in the season, Todd?
Um, hmm. If Alabama loses this game, I don't think it'll be as significant as it would if Georgia loses this game. Because if Alabama loses this game, like you said, they drop out of the top 4, and you still got another SEC team, Tennessee, who's right at the doorstep of being in the top 5,
Oh,
and they're on the same side of the conference as Alabama.
oh,
Yeah, so if Alabama loses this game, it's very, very significant. However, they are playing in Alabama.
oh! The game is in Alabama.
The game is in Tuscaloosa. Now,
Oh,
if Georgia loses this game,
mm-hmm.
because and it's a close game, if Georgia loses this game and it's a close game, pretty much Alabama and Georgia are going to swap spots.
That's what I thought. Go ahead.
Tennessee, Tennessee may jump in the top 4, and Georgia be number 5. So, but it's a good thing that the game is being played early in the season, because with a new playoff system, you'll still have the best teams in the championship game, because this game is still being played early in the season. The SEC is the strongest division in college football. Everybody know that.
Hands
So
down.
this game being played so early in the season, say Alabama loses to Georgia, they have to play Tennessee, who is also in the top 5 at that time. They beat Tennessee. Now Alabama jumps themselves right back into the top 4. They may not play in the SEC championship, but they're right back in the top 4. So say they jump right back in the top 4, not play in the SEC championship because Tennessee beat them, or they beat Tennessee. So now them and Tennessee play in the SEC championship, Tennessee and Georgia, and Tennessee messes around and beat Georgia.
Uh-huh.
Now you got Tennessee and Alabama
Then it's a really kerfuffle.
in the playoffs. Yeah, so that's
Kerfuffle.
why
Man.
the SEC is so stacked, man. I wish they did narrow it down to the conference champion and the conference runner-up automatically get bids
In the top 4 playoff spots.
in the top 8 playoff spots. It's a 12
Oh, eight.
team,
Oh,
12
it's
team
8
bracket.
teams now.
Yeah, so you think about in the Power Five, it's the Power Five, but only 4 of them in the Power Five get to have that done. But you get both conference participants, conference championship participants,
Mm-hmm.
make it to the playoffs. In the SEC, the Big 12, the Pac-10, and the ACC.
Okay.
And then you get 4 at large bids.
Okay.
So those can come from like Boise State, teams that
UCF.
aren't in power. Yeah, no, UCF is in the Big 12. UCF can make it.
Oh.
Yes,
Oh, I missed that.
UCF
I
is
thought it
in the,
was in Conference USA. From wow, I
no.
hadn't followed UCF moving conferences like that because they was in Conference USA back in the day, from what I remember.
Yep, but
Wow.
UCF is in the Big 12 now. So UCF can actually play in the playoffs. They just have to be number 1 or number 2 in their conference.
Okay, it's pretty interesting. So through and through, my summary of what you just said here is basically pretty significant for Alabama based upon them being number 4 already. But I would say not as significant for Georgia because I feel like they would have enough. In my opinion, you're saying they would have enough time in the season to recover. And since they do play Tennessee, which is a strong top 5 team, maybe if they beat Tennessee even after losing to Alabama, they may still be in the college football playoffs.
Yes,
basically.
They can
So
still be in the
yeah,
playoffs, basically.
makes sense. Makes sense. But it'll be a pretty good game to watch. I mean, hands
Oh,
down.
I
Those are two
cannot wait to
hard
watch that
nosed
game.
programs.
I cannot wait to watch that game, man. You know how much all of those kids that's going to be on that field. You know how many of those kids we're going to see in the NFL next year? Man, I
Yeah.
cannot wait to watch that game.
Oh yeah.
I
Oh
cannot wait.
yeah. They produce a lot of NFL players.
Yes.
Moving on to a university that used to produce a lot of NFL players, at least back in the mid '90s. We're talking about the University of Miami Hurricanes. They are going to be hosting the Virginia Tech Hokies. Miami. Only reason I'm mentioning this game because Miami is number 7. Okay, so they are. You said 8 teams in a college football playoff now. They
Mm-hmm.
actually, if it started right now, they would be in the
Yes.
University of Miami. So, do you think that they will continue this, or will it stop abruptly and maybe they lose 2 in a row when they do get stopped? What do you think?
Upset alert.
Virginia
Upset
Tech?
alert. They struggle against Virginia Tech. I don't care how good Miami is. Virginia Tech always plays Miami tough. And it's an ACC game. So it's going to
Yeah.
be a battle. Do I expect Miami to lose? Nah. I'm just putting everybody on upset alert because it could possibly happen just because of the nature of the game and the rivalry between the two. If Miami comes out there and they play Miami football, Miami wins this game by at least 14 points. But
Wow.
if Miami takes Virginia Tech lightly, Virginia Tech will win this game.
Wow.
Yes.
That's significant. That's significant. Wow. I just look at the game there for a second.
Yeah.
The And what I'll just finish off with saying real quick, because I want to move on to our next topic, but I want to get through these games. I think Miami, I think they'll stay pace and stay in the top 10. I just don't think that they'll, at the end of the year, uh, I don't think they'll be in the top 8. I just don't. I don't see them in the top 8. I
The
don't.
long the longer the season goes on and Miami continues to dominate, that kid Cam Ward is going to get better and better and better the longer the season goes on. If they don't lose now, they're not going to lose until they get in the
Um,
playoffs. They may be one of the best teams in the country by the time the playoffs come around.
oh, so it could go either way from
It can
what it
go
sounds like
it can
from
go
you.
either way. It can go either way. If Miami wins tomorrow or Saturday and they continue to roll, Cam Ward is going to get stronger and stronger as the season goes on.
Heard, heard. Speaking of teams that may get stronger this week, because they are going to be battling a conference foe, and that is Ohio State, the Ohio State University, the Buckeyes, versus the Spartans, Michigan State. And it is at Michigan State, so it is on the road. Um, could the Buckeyes possibly be on upset alert? Because it seems like the Spartans always played them tough. Even though the rivalry is Michigan and Ohio State, I was a kid back in the day, and I remember
Mhm.
the Ohio State game would come on, and sometimes for whatever reason I would catch that Spartan helmet, so I knew it was Michigan State, and they would always play them tough. They would end up losing, but they,
Mhm.
for some reason, Michigan State would. I mean, obviously, Ohio State has had some blowouts in their time. I mean, it's happened over time. But I'm saying just average, average year in, year out. When Michigan State has a decent class, they play
Mhm.
the Buckeyes tough. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is.
I don't see the Buckeyes struggling at all. I
Okay.
think they win this game comfortably. But I like to give a shout out to the Parker High School alum that plays for Michigan State. His name is Nakai Martinez. He's number 1. He's a defensive back for Michigan State. He's been a stud since he was a
Nakai
kid.
Martinez. I'm
Nakai
sorry. Man.
Martinez. He's been a stud since he was a kid. Now he's doing it at the highest level he could possibly do it on because he's just a junior in college. But look out for Nakai Martinez. He's a stud out there. However, I think Ohio State is too strong for Michigan State this year. Ohio
Too
State is
much
one
of
of
a
the
powerhouse, huh?
yeah, they're a powerhouse. They're one of the best teams in the country, and it's going to show on
Gotcha.
Saturday. Michigan State
Awesome.
may hang around a little bit, but eventually the talent is going to show that Ohio State has much more talent. Your weather? Oh, your weather okay over there, Corey? I see your lights
I guess
flashing.
it's getting a little windy. My power cords are so they're kind of low. The county still ain't came out and done anything about it.
Oh
It's so
wow.
frustrating. It's just kind of
Yeah.
low line, but we're gonna work with it. But we had one other game to get to. Want to hurry and get this one in, but we got Colorado. Coach Prime will be back home in his home state of Florida. He will be right outside, about 15 minutes away from where I'm at right now at UCF, University of Central Florida. Both teams made the jump from their respective conferences to the Big 12. So it'll be interesting to see how Coach Prime does on the road. UCF is not a powerhouse from what all I've read. They're not necessarily a powerhouse or anything like that. But in their conference, when they were in their conference, now I'm not saying it was a strong conference, but Conference USA, they were
Mhm.
pretty good. They had an undefeated season, if I'm not mistaken. They had an undefeated season. So they've been, for their competition that they have played against, have been very good.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a test, I feel like, for both teams to show who is really deserving to be in the Big 12 and be talked about. What do you say about it? What do you say about that, Todd?
Well, Colorado was actually coming back home. They were originally in the Big 12 conference, so them coming back to the Big 12 is where they belonged anyway. Now,
Oh,
as for the game, UCF has the best running back in the country, and he's a hometown guy from Orlando, Florida. Went to Edgewater High School. Last name Harvey. He's number 7. Harvey
wow.
is the best running back in the country. The way that Colorado defends the run, I look for Harvey to have a really big game, and I look for UCF to pull this game out. It's going to be close, and it's going to be high scoring. But I look for UCF to pull this game out just because of number 7, Harvey, from Central Florida, Edgewater High School.
So Coach Brown will get his second loss of the season this early in the season.
He'll get his second loss this early in the season. They'll bounce back
Ooh.
because they're going to have something to build on going forward because they're not going to play bad. It's just going to come down to UCF outplaying them in the final minutes. But they're not going to play bad. They're going to compete. But I look for UCF to pull this off.
Hmm. With Coach Prime being back home, I'm just gonna finish the topic with this. With Coach Prime being back home, back in Florida,
Hmm.
I think he'll pull it out. I think he's gonna try to get the boys to really come out and play since he back home, in my opinion. And I think they're gonna really have a good showing. But I'll level with you on this last thing. I do think, based on what you said about this running back and that Colorado run defense, I do think that boy may have a good fielder, but I think Shador may offset it on the offensive side when he gets out there. If he can have 2 or 3 seconds to throw the ball tomorrow on Saturday, I really do. But all right, guys, we got to move on to our final topic of the night. My co-host made a statement on Sunday stating that when it's all said and done, that Andy Reid, coach of the Kansas City Chiefs for the last, I believe, 10 plus seasons. He was the coach of the Philadelphia Eagles for about 20 seasons or so. I'm sorry, guys, I didn't get the exact number, but he has been an all time coach, known as Big Red, lovable Big Red. But my co host said that he would possibly go down, or not possibly, that he would. I'm sorry, I got to quote him correctly, that he would, and I have to push back. Why do I have to push back? All right, guys, we had a little start over there. It's okay. We are in our last topic of the night, which is Andy Reid, when it's all said and done, going to be the GOAT NFL head coach? And my co-host said, absolutely, he is. I think he's a little more of a homer because he is the coach of his team. But I look at it on a full scale. I look at it on a full view and a full scale. And there is no way that I'm going to put Andy Reid over Bill Belichick or over Bill Walsh, even. The reason why I say Bill Walsh, a lot of people don't remember Bill Walsh. I know he's from the 80s. 49ers won 3 Super Bowls with him in the 80s. I know he's old. The guy's credited with creating the West Coast offense. You got offenses that run their offense. It's a form of the West Coast offense. Almost every offense you see nowadays is a form of the West Coast offense. So when you have such a significance on the game, that to that level, I gotta put you up there. Maybe you're not number, but I gotta put you up there. Bill Belichick, the difference and the reason why I put Bill Belichick over Andy Reid, simply because they both had winning records. They both teams were always competitive. Their teams were always winners. But the difference is Bill Belichick was somehow always able to take advantage of his opportunities and the few opportunities that Andy Reid had. I'm talking about earlier. I ain't talking about recent memory. I'm not talking about the last 4 or 5 seasons. Okay, he's got a generational talent like Bill Belichick had. What I'm saying is like up until about 5 seasons, 4 seasons ago. Let's just be up until about 4 seasons ago. If you did apples to apples, Bill Belichick took care of more of his opportunities or took advantage of more of his opportunities as opposed to Andy Reid. It seemed like to me once Andy Reid got the generational quarterback and wide receiver, in my opinion, with Tyreek Hill, he had both of them. Okay, and he had a decent offensive line. He always had a decent offensive line, but he had a decent offensive line. So for me, it's kind of like Bill Belichick. Yeah, he had Tom Brady, but Bill Belichick also won Super Bowls as a defensive coordinator before he even became a head coach, being the head coach of Lawrence Taylor on the defense of the Giants. So he had Lawrence Taylor, but he had to still you got to still coach up these players. Yeah, you can put them out there and just say run through a wall, but you got to let them know the instructions. You got to let them know how they're going to go about it. You got to let them know what scheme you guys are running, and he has to buy into that in order to be that dominant all-time linebacker that LT was. So Bill Belichick's overall record, as well as his taking advantage of his opportunities, that's where I say it separates it because they both had generational quarterbacks, but one just took care of their opportunities. I feel like a lot earlier in their coaching tenure than the other one did. So that's where I just part ways. You gotta. Last thing. You got an all-time quarterback, all-time wide. You had an all-time wide receiver, and you got an all-time, all Hall of Fame and a Hall of Fame tight end. These are all-time players. Okay, I mean, you got the floor, Todd.
Let me start with Bill Walsh. Bill Walsh will go down as the greatest offensive mind ever. Greatest offensive mind because of the legacy that he's left behind and what the NFL still thrives to do because of him. The West Coast offense, like you said. But head coach, 3 Super Bowls with the San Francisco 49ers. Now let me jump to Bill Belichick. Bill Super Bowl as a defensive coordinator for the Giants. When you see he had somebody, the greatest defensive player of all time, Lawrence. Now you're talking the greatest defensive mind ever. How many conference championships did Bill Belichick make it to without Tom Brady? None. None. How many conference championships has Andy Reid made it to without Patrick Mahomes? 3.
With the Eagles, right?
Yes. So he's not a great coach just for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. He's a great coach no matter where he goes. Tom Brady left Bill Belichick, went to Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and won a Super Bowl. Did Bill Belichick even make it to the playoffs after Tom Brady?
Once. One time.
Once. Once. Bill Walsh will go down as the greatest offensive mind ever because he's still influencing the game, has still influence over the entire NFL. The greatest offensive mind ever. Bill Belichick, he may not go down as the greatest. He may go down as the second greatest because Monty Kiffin is going to go down as the greatest defensive mind ever, according to the NFL right now, because everybody runs a form of the Tampa 2. He was just
Tampa
never
Bay.
a head coach. So I put him in the same category, not as not as Bill Walsh, because he was never a head coach. He never got that opportunity, but he had such an influence over the game. You have to recognize him as one of the greats. Bill Walsh is also one of the greats. Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is one of those guys I like to compare it to when I see kids coming up in youth football. You got two type of kids coming up in youth football. You got kids that eat soup with a spoon, and you got kids that eat soup with a fork. So them kids that eating soup with a fork got to get it by any means necessary. So they got to do it by any means necessary. Bill Belichick ate his soup with a spoon. He had the greatest quarterback that ever played a game of football. The most dedicated quarterback that ever played the game of football.
Gotta agree. Gotta agree. I will say, you know, I guess I gotta, I'll say this. You got a point. He did have Tom Brady. But the first couple of Super Bowls was not Tom Brady, especially not the first one. It was Bill Belichick's defense against that Rams offense. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Exactly.
Andy Reid has never won a Super Bowl with depending solely on his defense.
We didn't
I
win.
watched all his
We
Super
didn't
Bowl
win last
championships.
year. We didn't win last year solely on our
No, I'm
defense.
talking about defense. I'm talking about defense, solely on defense. There was touchdowns scored in that game. It wasn't a game of field goals. It was defense.
But
The Patriots, when they won that Super Bowl, they
hmm
scored one touchdown in that game. The rest were field
hmm
goals. They scored one touchdown. So I
but
mean, at least on offense, they scored one touchdown.
but looking at the Super Bowl last year, you don't think it was our defense that stood up?
Yeah, I mean, ultimately at the end, I feel like that,
Okay.
but I
Another
don't feel
question.
like it dominated throughout the entire game. I don't feel
Another
that like it
question.
dominated.
You don't think Kansas City right now is 3-0 because of their defense?
Yeah, as in this season, yeah, absolutely. I love with you there. Yeah, absolutely,
So
absolutely. We'll at least end in agreement on the topic there. Yeah, they're at
yeah.
Chris Jones, Trent McDuffie, them linebackers. They are all over the place. To where when I'm looking at a third, they're probably gonna get some Kansas City. Then they just stand up against them. I said, "Wow." I said,
And
"Well, Todd does it again."
you
Huh?
cannot forget my dog in the middle, Stone Cold Chris Jones.
He's a
Stone
stud.
Cold Chris Jones.
Worth every penny.
Every
Every
penny.
freaking penny.
Every penny. I don't think I would have watched one Kansas City Chiefs game this year had they not re-signed my boy last year.
It was in for the big fellas too, man. I like Chris Jones. Hey, but
Yes.
listen, Todd, man. Wanted to try to get some content out to our great subscribers out there. We just wanted to let you guys know that we are continually always committed to getting you guys out content. We're in Florida, people. We got a hurricane hitting the north part of Florida, right?
Yeah.
As in about 30 minutes is gonna make landfall. My
Yep.
mom down south in Fort Myers, they already starting a flood. They already starting a surge. I mean, it's all over the place. But we're in the central Florida. Luckily, we got those counties to kind of shield us of that harsh damage before it kind of gets to us. So then we just get the wind and the rain. So if anybody's wondering, like, why y'all recording and y'all got a hurricane in Florida? Relax. We're in the middle part of the state. We're kind of inland, big time, at least when it comes to the storms. So I want to say,
Yeah.
Todd, thank you so much for granting me your time. I know you got stuff going on in your life. You got your beautiful wife. You got your kids. I know all of that was going on, and man, I appreciate you so much, man, for taking time out today, man. All right.
Thank you, Court, man. I appreciate the opportunity.
Hey, anytime, man. Hey, guys, we will hopefully be back on Saturday night to do the NFL preview of the upcoming NFL games. We look to get back here at about 9 p.m., preferably Saturday night. We're going to try to make that time for you guys. We appreciate anyone that gives us any time because we know anyone's time is valuable. And if it's theirs, it's appreciated, guys. I just wanted to say that, all right? All right, Todd, signing off for myself. Todd's going to sign off for himself. But I appreciate you guys here at Core Sports Corner. We'll see you back Saturday night.
See you Saturday.
Yes, sir.